Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode of Let's Rebuild Allure Hills with me, Blue Spirit. In this episode we are going to work on the other side of the main street, the right side when entering the park. And we're going to start that when we're not going to finish this episode. As said, we are going to work 2 episodes on that. But we're just going to make a start and yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I'll see you in a second and let's get to work. So what I did for the right side of the main street is actually look at the buildings that I previously built, because the buildings that I'm going to build right now were already built in the previous version of the park, and I did that with the same technique that I'm using now, which is of course using windows as walls. But because of the bridge that is in there and the new scale that I'm working on, where the buildings are a little bit taller than I previously were, I did need to make them new, because the buildings itself were taller and the buildings in the previous version were a little bit small compared to these ones. So I basically copied them to this park and then started that I needed some work, or a lot of work actually, and I basically started doing that. So what you'll see me do in this episode is see me working on those. There will be some cuts, rather big ones actually, especially towards the end. There will be more cuts in this video because, as I said, I looked up a whole lot of things that I did previously and looked at reference pictures, of course. And I didn't always have my second screen open, so I jumped around a lot in different maps and stuff like that. So it wasn't the most efficient way of building this, but in the end it was working out fine, and I think the result is better. Even though I'm not too sure about some or how some buildings came out, but we will come to that in the end. But yeah, that's basically what I'm doing this episode. So you'll see me building stuff that I previously built again, but of course these buildings were made just before I started the series, the original series that is. So it's quite funny that I explained how the things were built, etc., and now you actually see me building stuff. So I think that's funny. If you're hearing background noises, I hear them a lot lately. So it's just raining outside and people and trucks are moving down the place. So if you hear some weird noises, I apologize for that. There's not much I can do, unfortunately. But anyway, yeah, you will just see me building this one over here. So the building that I'm building right now is just the first building on the right side, and this is going to be the guest service inside of the park, so you can collect lost and found stuff if they are brought to this place, of course. You can also get some information which you might not have gotten outside the park, like pass holder, fast passes and all those sort of things. So it's just an extra service point which is already outside the park, but I think it would be nice to have one inside the park as well. So it's just a little information kiosk on the inside and not much of an interior. As I mentioned in the previous episode, I will be doing interiors for this park, and I most likely will do that on this side of the main street. Mostly the gift shop will be one, and that's because I have the space for it in this part of the park, and I really want to do it, and I think it adds a lot to the main street itself to have those interiors, as I mentioned previously. But you'll see, I will talk a little bit more about that when I'm building the 5 and dime shop, which will be the gift shop in this version. Previously it was like a grocery shop, but this time around it will definitely be a gift shop, and you will see me building that in a second. or in a few minutes, I believe, because we're still building this gift shop. And what I did with this shop is definitely bringing more to scale. And I looked at reference pictures, of course, and I think the scale is really close, even though it's getting quite a bit harder, especially on the corner there where the 5 and dime is, because the previous one, I was really satisfied with the previous one, and that was really small and very compact. And because the scale is a little bit bigger now, the buildings itself need to be bigger as well, and that was kind of a problem for me because I wasn't really too sure about it, and it looked a little bit funky. But then again, I decided to just make it a little bit taller and make the buildings around the 5 and dime itself a little bit taller, and that resulted in a much better looking building. And it's the same goes for the arches that I'm working on right now. I think the arches were made in the previous version as they were made in a previous version as well, but I think with the new scale they come out much better than they previously did, and with the scale and stuff like that, it just looks so much better now than it previously was. And so I'm very happy with that. And I tried multiple things, especially with the roof. I did that off camera because I wasn't too happy with it, and it looked a little bit funky, but I believe this is the best version I could make of it, and it comes very close to the reality, and which is important to me. Which I think I said this multiple times now, that I want to make it this as realistic as possible, and I think I succeeded in that. So yeah, something that I struggled with though were these. I don't really know how to call them. Those footprints, I believe. I don't know, but they were a little bit weird. They were definitely hard to make because in real life they're very detailed with lots of different colors and patterns and stuff like that. And of course we don't have that small objects or that many small objects in the park, so it was quite hard to do it. And you will see me working with something in the 5 and dime shop and the last building we built. You will see me using a technique, but that is really poly heavy, and I'm not really sure. It looked good, definitely, but yeah, it's really poly heavy. So because I'm using a lot of objects, so if my park fails at the moment, I definitely know why, because I'm using so much objects for it. But yeah, that's basically it. And but what I'm working on right now is just finishing up the building itself. It doesn't really have a name or anything. It's just a small little food stop. I think I put a burger place in here, or donut, I don't really know. Just a small little shop, and it isn't accessible from the street itself or something. The shop is inside, of course, but it's not like there is an interior or it is functioning in any means. It's just being there and looking good, I believe. What most buildings are doing actually in the game. But yeah, that's basically it. So I'm just finishing up this building, and then we move on to the 5 and dime shop, which was quite hard to do actually, because again, the scale, which was a little bit different than the previous version. So this one is also a little bit taller than the previous one. So that was a little bit different, and that made me want to change things up a little bit, because the roof of the building that I'm working on right now used to be inclined much more than it is right now, and because of the shape and the scale of things, the roof itself isn't so steep anymore, and that also resulted in some funky little things, which I mentioned before I wasn't too happy with. And you will see that when all the shops connect in the end, that it looks a little bit funny to me. It doesn't really fit together that well for some reason, while the previous version did. But in the end, when I looked at it, I thought the scale is much better than the previous version. They look much more real this time, or more realistic than they previously did. So it looks much better. But for some reason it doesn't feel completely right, so I might go back into these buildings off camera, or maybe in the next episode, and change them a little bit, just to make them look even better than they previous or they do now. So but you will see that in the cinematic shots. Maybe you'll see what I mean, maybe you don't, I don't know. But yeah, there's just a little bit of struggle that I had with this build right now. And now we go to the Five and Dime shop, of course, which is one of the buildings that I really love in this version, or actually in the Brown Vista Street as well. It's a really fun building, and it's so playful in its placement and how it's looking compared to all the other buildings. And this, as I said, this is going to be one of the interiors of the park. This will definitely be an interior, and we're going to work on that maybe next episode. Maybe I will do a separate episode of that, but I don't really know what the plans are for that just now. But I have some struggles with it, because at the beginning I was like, okay, well, I want to have an interior for this, so it would be nice if I was having, say, like windows, so you can look inside the walls, just as with the real building. But then I looked at at the pieces we have, and it just wasn't possible to do it. So I left them open, and I later on filled them in with just the art pieces, with like a slightly colored blue white combination or something. I don't really know what it is, but and that looks okay, but I'm not really sure. And since I don't have the DLC packs just now, the windows in there are the ones I can't use, and I won't buy them, because I think they don't cost much in anything, but I think it's just there are objects in there that I don't really see me using, except for the windows, and they are very, very limited. And I think if they are going to add windows to those DLC packs, I think they will add them later on in the game, maybe in a free update, maybe in another DLC. And I think I will wait for that a little bit, because I think if they are going to release more DLCs, even bigger ones, which I really hope, then I will probably buy them, but just not those free little packs with just the cars and stuff like that. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. But that's just me, and if you bought them and use them a lot, that's of course fine, but I just don't. So but yeah, I'm just the little technique you saw me use for the border on the ground. You saw me using those small brackets in different colors, and of course, as I said, I use them around the entire thing, and it looks very close to the original, but they are a lot of objects, so it isn't the best thing you can do for it, even though it looks nice. It looks really, really nice. But I'm just finishing up the Five and Dime, and as I said, I didn't fill the windows in just now, because the previous windows I used were a little bit too small for the scale I used with this building, so that would leave with rather strange angles and stuff like that, and borders. So I thought, okay, let's just not use them right now. But I later filled them in. I think that I did that off camera. So yeah, you will see the end result, of course, in the final cinematic shots at the end of the video. But yeah, that's just it from now, concerning those windows, of course. But yeah, that's just the little things that I try to do, and as said again and again in this episode, the scale is much better now. I'm really happy with it, but at the same time it gave me some struggles, and but yeah, it's all fine. I still live, the park still lives, and it's much better again and again. So I don't know why I complain a lot about that, but it's just who I am. Just what I'm doing right now is just finishing up the sign above the door, and I had some struggles with it because the placement, of course, and I wanted to put it on one billboard, but then again that wasn't possible, so I just had to replace it, and then it was kind of a struggle, but again it worked out fine in the end, and it looks great. Yeah, I definitely love it, and I'm really happy with the results. Then right now I'm building the final building of this episode, and this is a part where I really cut a lot out of it because it just wasn't interesting to watch, and it was more of the same, like placing those walls and stuff. So I'm just working on it, and this was one of the buildings which I wasn't too sure about, because as you can see now, it's a little bit short and compared to the other buildings, so it looks a little bit funky. But yeah, I will later on change that, and it looks much better now. And especially with these arches, I just copied them from the other building and place them right now. And here you see some work on the chimney, and it's just something you saw me do in the previous episodes or the beginning of this episode, so I won't talk too much about it. And with that, actually the video itself also already comes to an end very quickly now, so I'll just leave you with the final time-lapse bits and the cinematic shots, of course, at the end. There's not really much else to talk about, so I'll just leave you with some nice music. Yeah, that's basically it. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and continue watching this series, of course, and being here with me throughout the build. Of course, if you want to let me know something, have some requests or anything, just let me know down in the comments, and I will try to respond as quickly as possible. But yeah, that's basically it for now. I want to thank you all so much for watching again, and yeah, let me know down below what you think. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe to YouTube to catch everything and all the latest news and some teasers and such. So thank you so much for watching again, and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.